Hi, this is Sheryl from Tutoring with Sheryl and the tech coach for tutors at Tech Tutor Innovate. Joanne Kaminsky so kindly asked me to come to Impact 6 and talk to you a little bit about organization and how that can actually benefit yourself and your students. So I'm going to share my screen with you. This always takes me a click or two to get this up, but I am going to be talking about organization. So without further ado, here we go. So the title of the entire presentation is Optimizing Organization for a Better Student Experience so that you can keep students longer. And I think we all want to do that, don't we? I mean, I don't know about you, but the last time I checked things out, that student retention brings more money to my pocket. And so I want to do the absolute best that I can for my families. So we're going to move on and we're going to talk a little bit about this. For those of you that have never met me before, I am Sheryl Uehling. I am a retired school teacher. I was in the classroom for 32 years, mostly as a fifth grade classroom educator, and then 2 years now as a private reading tutor. But I do have to back up a little bit and let you know that the last 2 years that I was teaching, I was supporting students working for a company. But now I have been 2 years on my own and so glad that I am doing that. As I said, I'm a reading tutor and I'm a tech coach for tutors. But I am here to talk to you about getting organized. And I want to talk to you a little bit about how things started for me. I actually started as an in-person tutor. I loved it. It gave me the sense of still being in the classroom, still being with the students. It was just really I loved it. And I have to tell you, I started out with one. Then I picked up a family with 2 kids and I had 3. And by the time I got the 4th one, I was like, whoa, I don't know if this is going to work. And let me tell you why. When I first started 2 years ago, I was driving to homes. I was going 24 miles one way to meet with students and thinking that that was okay because I was no longer in the classroom. I was so desperate to be out of the classroom. I was like, yeah, that's okay. And I was trying to justify that. But it was not a good model for $40 per hour, which was what I was charging at the time. The other thing that was really holding me back was I was creating materials. So I was printing things off. I was still doing what I would do in the classroom, laminating things, thinking I'll use it for another student. And I was getting so much joy out of it because that's what I knew. But it was taking me a lot of time and costing me a lot of money. The next thing that I noticed was I had students, but I was hoping that I would have had more students because by now this is probably January and I have 4 students. The weather's changing. I live in Nebraska. We get a lot of bad weather and there was an ice storm coming. So I just let my families know that, I think right now what I need to really do is transition to online. That was about the same time that I found out that I was going to be picking up a couple of more students. So these students were actually going to be meeting me online. And I'm like, brilliant. This is like all the stars have aligned. This is great. But prior to that, I was just kind of looking for students and wondering where are they at? I have a sign on my car. I've got a website. Why aren't they coming to me? I'm a great teacher. Where are they at? So I know that overall my model wasn't working and I needed to work on my social media. So I decided in order for me to move forward, I needed more training. So I hired someone to help me learn how to do more with social media. So what was the next step? Like I said, I was going to think smarter and I was going to get organized. So I did improve my social media by taking that coaching course that actually I just recently finished. At the height of the largest number of students I had was last summer. I had 21 students. It was wonderful income, but I was chasing myself. I was running myself ragged. Again, I live on a farm. And it's not just one farm that we are in charge of. We have multiple farms and I have to go and I have to mow all of this. And so my husband's like, aren't you going to mow? It's looking pretty bad out there. You need to go over to this place and pick this person up. You need to go pick these parts of them. I'm like, I can't. I've got students. I cannot help you right now. So it put a real crunch on my husband's business. And so I just knew that wasn't going to work. I was going to have to just kind of think a little bit better. So my social media campaign definitely worked. Okay. But what I found was that I was accepting students in all areas. I was doing reading, math, writing. Somebody wanted some support with science. It was too much. I've heard people say this before. I ignored it. I was like, nope, I'm a school teacher. I can do anything. Well, guess what? That was basically 21 lesson plans. Nobody has enough energy to do 21 lesson plans. And if you are doing 21 lesson plans, I'm going to tell you to rethink things because there's no reason for you to do that. Like I said, I'd moved online. So if a person wanted to meet with me in person, they could drive to my farm and they could meet with me here. But even they decided that that was really too much driving. So I was in the midst of all 21 of these students that I was organizing for. Thank goodness I actually had one as a small group. So that took care of 6 of them. So do the math, 21 take away 6. So 15 lesson plans, okay? I'm driving myself crazy, trying to keep all these tabs open on my machine, trying to remember what was I going to do for who, having multiple slips of paper sitting around, this student, this student. I'd gone to even buy folders so I could keep my students organized. I thought, this is crazy. I can work smarter. I don't have to work this hard. So I fell back on Google Classroom. I already had 2 Google certifications, level 1 and level 2 for the classroom teacher. And I thought, what am I doing? I am Google certified. I'm Google trained. I know what I'm doing. So I went back to my tried and true resource, Google Classroom, to get my lessons organized and streamlined. Now, this picture is one that I'm actually going to share as a freebie for you. This is why I use Google Classroom. It is just absolutely phenomenal. There's more things that it can do than what I have listed, but these were the things that just kind of came to mind. First of all, if you're a teacher like I am, you're thinking, I need a place to plan. And when I was in the classroom, I had a paper plan book. Write everything down, Monday, this time do this, Tuesday, do this. Here's when their specials are, anything that came up, I would be sharing. But like my little folders that I had, that was just too crazy. I had to streamline. I had to think smarter and not work as hard. So for planning purposes, Google Classroom is great. I'm just going to go down in case you're wondering where I'm at on this picture. Communication. You can directly communicate with parents via the email feature within Google Classroom. And I would use it to communicate with my students in the stream. So each time you added an item, parents get a notification and they can understand it. And they know that you are continually updating materials. And of course, this increases your credibility. But then when a student sees a message in the stream, they get excited because they're like, whoa, she's talking to me. This is really cool. So when they log in, they're going to see that message. Now, I don't use that probably as much as I could because I meet with my students really often. Many of my students I'm meeting 3 to 4 times a week. So the communication there isn't really such an issue. But I do have a couple students that I only meet with once a week. And occasionally I will put a little blurb in there like, hey, how did the test go? Or did you finish that book? Can't wait to hear. And then when they open it up, they're going to see that message and know that I was thinking of them. I'm going to hop down to topics now. You can organize your classrooms by topics and either use that topic as a class. So if you're a math teacher and you're going to be teaching addition and subtraction of fractions, you might have one classroom just for addition of fractions and one class for subtraction of fractions, or you could combine them. And then inside of there, you can get your topics in line. Okay, so you can organize your classrooms by topics. You can organize them as a class, or you can organize your classrooms by students and use topics to sort lesson materials. Now, resources. Oh my gosh, this has helped me so much to have my resources all in one spot. You can add all sorts of resources to your classrooms, and you can change the access to those materials, making it very, very easy and efficient way to share what you and your students need for lessons. And I totally use that feature. As a matter of fact, when I'm doing reading assessments with my students, I have a classroom just for the reading assessment. So I'm not constantly clicking around looking for the information. It's all in one space. This is a dedicated learning space. Your students can return to the classroom at any time to use materials that you have posted. Parents really appreciate this. They are empowered to support your child their child knowing that you are the expert and that you are providing their child with excellent materials. And I just think it's just incredible the things that you can do with Google Classroom. And another reason I use it is because it's reliable. Now, not only is it reliable as far as it's never down. I mean, once in a very, very long time will Google just not be working. I think I've been doing this 2 years and I only had one day where I had a problem. And I'm online 4 to 5 days a week. So it's really hasn't been a problem for me. You can log in on your phone, on your tablet, at my tablet here, or a computer. You can even log on as a guest at a hotel. If the audio and video are working, you can actually run your lesson from that computer. So that's something to definitely think about. So as long as I have a connection and I stick to my teaching schedule, I can literally teach on the go. I have taught from the airport. I have taught from my car. I have taught from my daughter's house. I've taught from my mother's house. I have taught from sitting outside at a park before. That was a little bit windy, but I was able to get it done. So I don't have to always be at home. And sometimes that's what we're looking for. We left the classroom for flexibility. So I really want you to consider optimizing your organization to keep your students with you longer. So let's talk about how is using Google Classroom going to help you stay organized and keep students longer? Well, it's going to help you stay focused on what the student needs and where they are going in their learning journey. And you can quickly make adjustments to what they need, and planning is simplified once you have gone to all of the work of setting it up. I am not going to sit here and tell you that you can have a Google Classroom set up in under 30 seconds. You might be able to have the page set up, but as far as putting the links and things in, that does take a little bit longer. But if you're going to go to all the work to set something up, you could literally make a classroom and then just go to that classroom, and it could be like where you're storing materials, and then you could just bring those links in. And I highly recommend thinking of it as more of a library of resources for yourself and for your students. This keeps the learning going. If you listen to my podcast anywhere, I always end with keep the learning going. Well, we want to keep the learning going, don't we? We cannot be the only source of educational materials for these kids. Most of them are going to have a classroom teacher or a parent that's teaching them at home. They're coming to us for support, and we want to show our expertise. And what better way to do this than creating a Google Classroom? So students and parents can come back to the classroom. They can continue practicing with their child, even if you are not present at that time. And I think that provides excellent customer service. And now I know that there are a lot of other things that are out there. Koala Go is definitely a great playground. I build my playground into my Google Classroom because it's a link. But so there are going to be other options, but I'm just telling you that for me, organizing my tutoring practices this way has just opened up so many doors for me. I'm no longer stuck at my house, which is extremely beneficial when you got kids that live all across the United States. And then you can teach from anywhere. Like I said, you can easily teach from your phone, from your tablet. My husband and I travel a lot. Last year, 2 years, excuse me, when I first started, I even considered teaching from Ireland, but I knew that the time period would it would be the middle of the night, and I would be trying to be teaching while we were on our trip, and I chose not to. But you can click on the student meet link and you can open up your Google Classroom from anywhere, and you have everything that you need at the touch of a button. I want to thank all of you for joining me today. I hope that I have given you some things to think about as you are setting up your tutoring business or even improving the business that you already have. There are so many creative and innovative ways that you can actually go about teaching. And you don't need to be a one size fits all. You can still meet in person and you can still use Google Classroom, but we want to optimize organization to keep our students longer. One more thing that I'm going to add before I end this conversation is that I offer 3 ways of teaching in my tutoring business. I use one-on-one, small group, and log in and learn. And guess what? I use Google Classroom for them all. You guys make it a great day. Thanks for joining me today. Have fun at Impact 6 and keep the learning going.